So you and me, we don't like clicking around too much. We don't want to use our mouse pointers, you don't have to. I mean, you and I, we are comfortable in our IDE, we like VS Code, or whatever IDE you want to choose. I am IDE agnostic. I like being in the CLI. I like using my keyboard, is essentially what I'm getting at. But sometimes we do have to go into the portal. Maybe we have to double check that what we provision is actually what we want it to be, that it's in the desired state that we had. Maybe I have to check on a VM, for example, is it running, what's happening with it. Maybe I have an Azure function that's in a failed state or whatever the case may be. So then I go into the portal, I click around, I click the wrong thing. Shit, now I have to go back. Okay, it's loading. It's loading. Now I'm logged out. What? And okay, so then I re-authenticate myself. I go into... You get the point. So obviously I am exaggerating quite a bit, but sometimes that's what it feels like. So, but what if I told you that there is a solution to this? So there is actually a way for us to bring code into the portal. Enter Resource Graph. So when we think about Resource Graph, you want to think about exploration. It's all about what do I have in my cloud environment and how do I query it. And we run queries with the Kusto query language, or KQL. It's the same language that you would use if you were running queries inside a log analytics workspace. So if you've ever run a log search alert for something, for example, or if you've been working with application insights, you have come across this before. And it's the same thing with Azure Resource Graph. So think maybe you are troubleshooting something, maybe you need to look up a property on a network card, maybe you need to... What was the address prefix again for this subnet? Do I have delegation on this subnet for some resource? Like, what's going on? And we can do all of these things inside the portal. We can do it in our CLI. We can do it through PowerShell. I mean, we can do a lot of things, essentially. So we're gonna jump right into the portal, actually. So what you want to do inside the Azure portal is you just want to search for Resource Graph, and it's the Resource Graph Explorer, and then we are greeted with this main page. So there are things you should know, maybe perhaps right off the bat, and it's you are running these queries in the context of your user, so you can only query what you have access to. In this case, I am the super admin in my demo environment, and I can see that the scope here is set to the default directory. Now, should I want to narrow this, I can select a management group, or I could select a subscription. If I only wanted to query things in my development environment, for example, I could do that, but I'm gonna keep my default directory, and we're gonna run things in here. Now, there are a few examples here which are great for getting started, and there's a lot more examples in the documentation, but I will get to that eventually as well. But I guess the most basic one here could be counting the Azure resources. So if we just select Open Query, you can see that the text window here is populated with a few things. And what we can do is we can do either run query through this button, or I like to do Shift Enter. So I can see that given my current scope and what I have access to, I can view a total of 116 resources, so that's pretty cool. But like, what does this show me? So let's explore this a bit more. So I think resources is a good table to be looking into. So there is a thing you can do for just exploring. So what I usually do is, let's say I don't know much about resources. I know a little bit now since I've done some research for this video, but let's pretend I don't. Then I can specify the resources, and there's a keyword called limit. I could set this to 10. So I will limit this query to 10 results, and I can see, okay, I see some resources. I can see I have a few columns here, ID, name, type. So type is perhaps interesting. So let's say I want to query my virtual machines. Let's say where the type, we can say contains, because I'm not 100% sure what I need to enter here. So I'm gonna do this query, and I can see, all right, so I do get some hits, but it's not exactly what I want because it's also including extensions in here. So we'll just copy this one that I was looking for, and we'll actually hard code this. Alright, so this looks better. So these are my virtual machines. I can see what location they're in, I can see what resource group, and these are like the, depending on what table you are querying in, of course, but these are kind of the standard columns that you see here. Rows? Columns. Yeah, columns. I always get confused. But they contain some basic information, and what we are interested is in this properties. So usually there's a properties column that will contain more information. So if we actually open this, click see details, we can see, I can see the same things, but I also have this properties section. And in the properties we could delve much deeper into like, what SKU is this? Is it a Windows machine? What is the publisher? Like, there's a lot of things we could do, which is pretty nice. But then how would we do that? So you should know there's a few key words that I usually use. So if I can get this correct, let's say maybe I don't want to see everything. Like there's a lot of information here. I can use the keyword project, and I could say I only want to see the name, the name, the location, and the resource group. And if I send this query, I have a much more condensed result, which is could be easier to work with. But now then I don't have this properties section, which is not really what I want. So if I add it, I get access to the properties again. But maybe I want something else. Maybe I don't want to just look into here. Let's say I want to get the computer name as well, because the name and the computer name could actually be different. Then I have to look into the properties and see, okay, so it looks like admin username, or sorry, the computer name is inside the OS profile. So what I can do is I can set properties.os profile, and if we just query this, we'll see what we get. So we get a little bit deeper into where we want to be, but we still want, for example, the computer name. I can just copy this. And now we can see we are where we want to be. And I can do a lot of things with this, obviously. So let's say I wanted the username as well, which we saw. Some admin username. Okay. Then I could do this and just say admin username. And then I get the, oh, I did a mistake. I still have to have the computer name here. So now then I get the computer name and I have the username. So you can see kind of where I'm querying things. I'm looking for a specific type, and then I can do some manipulation of what I see. There is actually a way we can make this query look a little bit better. So you can actually, for this I think we want to use extend, which is another keyword we can be working with. And this part looks a little bit messy. So let's say I want to make this query a little bit easier to read. I could actually say I want a username, and I want this to be the result of this property. Then I could do the same thing for the computer. I can grab this. Now then I could actually scratch these things and just say I want the username, and then I want the computer, and I get the same result. So that just makes this query look a little bit better. There are other interesting things we can do. So I stole this example from the documentation, but this one you can see we're still working with virtual machines, but we are actually doing something funny here. So we're going into the properties again, we're going into extended, and we're going into the instance view, the power state, and then the code. And what does that mean? So let's just run the query and see. So it looks like code is this, it's the power state, and then it's deallocated. And we can see we have 5 of those. And one important thing to know about Azure Resource Graph is that every time a resource is being updated or created, then Azure Resource Graph is also updated. And it will, like the graph will run continuous full scans of your environment to make sure that you are querying with the correct data. And to verify that, we could actually go to Virtual Machines. Let's just grab one, so I'll just take the jump box. I will start it. And then if we just run this query a few times, oh, something happened. It's a little janky, so we keep running this. And here we go. So now we have one machine that's running. So we have one machine running and 4 deallocated. And we could actually, if we were interested, we could see, well, what does this thing actually contain? So if we look into the virtual machines again, and then I'm gonna grab this one. Instead of doing summarize, I'm gonna actually just extend this. We could look into power state. Oh, this is actually, I don't know if I mentioned this, but extend, you can also use extend to add columns. So we have the standard columns here already, but now that I did an extend keyword for this power state property, I can see I have my usual stuff, but then at the bottom I have an additional property here which I can use. So I can see that power state is actually an object that contains 3 more properties, and we were looking at code, which is this one. So that's like how you can dig into things. So the properties section is super useful in my opinion. And this tells me like we could have used display status instead of code. So if we just run that, what happens? Yeah, we get the same thing. But maybe code is a bit more stable. I don't know. It's just how the example was constructed. So I've cleaned the slate here. So let's just keep exploring a little bit. So I want to see, one thing that I'm often checking is my virtual networks. So I'm not sure fully what the type is, and I should mention this is not something I prepared. I'm just doing this off the cuff a little bit. So I can see that the type is virtual network. That's perfect for me. I want to drill down into this one. So usually you would want to see your subnets, for example. So let's try and achieve that. So we have the virtual networks, and I don't see a column for subnets, so it's probably in properties. So if we look into this one, we can see, yeah, we have subnets. Oh, and it's a list. How fun. So we have subnet 2, and it seems we have another subnet here. Do I have a better one? I think this one is good. So this one also contains 2 subnets, if I remember. We have container workload. Actually, we'll do that. So we have container workload and server workload. So this one has 2 subnets in it inside the properties. So I want to view them. So again, I want to project the name and then properties subnets. So this is kind of good, kind of not. I guess because this is a list, we have to specify. So first of all, let's make it a bit more precise. So I want the virtual network where the name equals this. Awesome, so I only have the 1 subnet now. Since this is a list, I guess I have to, if I do that, and then I could probably do .name to get the name. Yep. So that's pretty good. So what if I did this? That did not work. Go back. Go back to the home property. So it's properties, and then you have the name. That looks like we have properties again. So let's store .name. Okay, so that works. So now then I have the virtual network, I have a subnet, and I have the prefix. And if I change these ones to 1, I get the next subnet. All right, so I'm back. There's been a cut probably, but so what I was trying to achieve is this one is not super helpful because I have to specify a specific object in the index, and like I don't know if the index is gonna be like in the same order every time. It's not very accurate. So what we have instead is there's actually a there's actually a function called mvexpand, and what I can do with it is I can actually expand the list essentially. So I create a new variable called subnet array, which is the value of properties.subnets, which you remember is a list of objects. Then I can say if the subnet array.name has SN server workload, I want you to project these. So if I run that, I get the SN server workload and I get one address prefix. So let's pretend I do container, then I get a different result. That's pretty nice. So you could create this query and you could send it, say, yeah, just specify whichever subnet you want to use. I happen to know there is a way to work with alerts, and like we did before, so we are not sure how. So if we do just alert management resources and we do the workflow we've done before, so yeah, alerts seems to be correct. So I'll say where type equals that. And then I have a lot of things. So if I just start looking into these, it's perhaps not super helpful right off the bat. So we'll look into the properties and see if there's stuff that we want to view. So I've been looking for a little bit, and in properties here, there is an essentials block, which seems to contain the target resource, that is the target of the alert, and also the monitor condition, which I think is interesting. In this case, it's fired. So let's see if we can do something with that. But let's say we want to have the condition, and I will say that this is properties, essentials, right? Yep, essentials and monitor condition. We'll do a quick copy, whoops, yep. And then the other one was target resource. And we'll call that resource. Then there were some interesting things, so we don't want to rename, we want to keep a few things, but the name, for example, of the alert is interesting. Of course, we're going to use the properties we created. And is there anything else we want? Perhaps we want the resource group. So we'll query that, and this actually makes a lot more sense to me if I were just to look at it at a glance. So I get the name of the, right now, this is a demo environment, so it's not super helpful perhaps, but I can see the condition, I can see what target resource. Service health incidents will always have a target resource of the subscription, and yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. Now, I did mention that you can actually run things inside the CLI, and you just have to make sure that you have added the extension for Resource Graph, which I've already done. That means we can start running things. So the command is acgraph query. We can do -q, and we can do the same thing. So resources, you know, we like that one. We'll limit this to 5 and we can run this. And this is super powerful because imagine I just created something through the CLI. Maybe I ran a deployment of some sort and I can get a lot of stuff. That wasn't super helpful, but we can do project name. And this will be just random, so if I just keep running this, we should see different things. Let's make a actual useful one then. So I guess then I would do where type contains virtual machine. Actually, no. virtual network and project type and name. So I want the virtual network. I will update this one. Virtual network. Let's say we want the name and we want the properties. And I'm actually gonna specify one specific. So we can see we have a count of 1. We have 1 match for this. And maybe I want to see the address prefix. So I can see that the name is that, but then in the properties object, we have something called address space. So let's update this to properties address space. And that's much more digestible and pretty good, I would say. So we can actually try and get some more. So let's not look for a specific one. We have 5 virtual networks. I have the name, I have the address prefixes. And if I want to have more stuff, I'll just delve into the property section. And I love this. It's super cool. So there is one super cool feature of Azure Resource Graph, and that's the change analysis. And if we choose the one in preview, for example, this one will keep track of any changes that happen in your Azure environment. And I mean, I have before gone into the activity logs and tried to look it through that way, and I think it's a pretty bad experience. But I've been starting to mess a little bit more with the change analysis. So here I get a few different things. And oh, and by the way, super important, if this doesn't work for you, you have to go to your subscription, you have to go to resource providers, and you have to make sure that Microsoft.change analysis is registered. If it's not registered, then you may have issues. But back in here, I can see things have changed. So I have a function here, for example, that has been updated. If I check on it, I actually get this side by side. So if you've ever done like a pull request review, this will look similar to you. So I can see an identity block was added. So before, this identity block didn't exist, but now it exists. And there's actually this open query button that I can click. It gives me a prepared query for this. So this is the same query that we saw, but this one will narrow it down even further. So if I look at my function app through this way, then it has extended a new attribute or a new column for me, which is called change attributes. And this one gives me like, who changed it, at what type. I am a user, as far as I know, and I was using the Azure Portal. So that's pretty cool stuff. So hopefully this gives you some ideas. So again, there are a lot of example queries that you can start working with. If we go into the documentation, again, link in description, there's a sample section. And here you have starter query samples and advanced query samples. So, I mean, there's a bunch of things in here. If we go to advanced, we also have a bunch of things in here. And these ones probably exist in the portal as well. So you just have to go and look. And yeah, so that's Azure Resource Graph. I think it's, I will start using it a lot more, I think. You just have to change your mindset. Like the first instinct isn't to go into the portal and go through everything there. Maybe the first thing, like you have to train yourself to switch mindset and start using the resource graph. I really like the terminal integration that you can use Azure PowerShell, Azure CLI, you can do REST, API calls. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. I should mention, which isn't covered in this video, it's maybe a future video, but you can author queries and you can make them shared and you can share them with your team. So, I mean, I don't know what use case you have. You may have a very specific use case for your environment, but you can write a query for it and share it with your team, which is awesome. But yeah, I think this is it. There may be a part 2 of this since there's so much to do with this. And let me know, like, give me recommendations for queries that you've used that has been helpful for you. I think it's super interesting. If you like the video, leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, thank you for watching. See you later.